Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News. This is Wednesday night's calendar.
Hello, thank you very much for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
Call in the army. Worried residents demand a rapid government response to bring North Yorkshire's wildfires under control.
In my opinion, we need national support now. We've got all our firefighters, the local farmers and community are fighting that. They're at the front of that fire as we speak, and they've been doing that for nearly 3 weeks.
Fire crews from across the country are to be drafted in to tackle the moorland blazes which are fringing Whitby. But what about the military? Not yet.
Also tonight, offering the olive branch. Sheffield Council apologises to a tree campaigner who says she was bullied into signing a non-protest agreement.
The threat was that you'd be taken to the High Court with potentially ruinous damages against you. I could have lost my house.
Oh, it's saved again! Would you believe it?
In sport, despite all the off-the-pitch drama, Wednesday's Young Guns shoot down Premier League Leeds and knock them out of the Cup.
And it's all plain sailing as Kerry gets a guided tour around Britain's tallest working windmill. Good evening. First tonight, there are calls for the military to be drafted in to help fight wildfires, which have now raged out of control on the North York moors for more than 2 weeks.
Yes, people living in villages near Whitby, close to the fire line, have been told that they might want to consider preparing a grab bag in case they need to leave their homes at short notice.
Today, fire chiefs said they were calling on support from other brigades elsewhere in the country, but there's mounting anger and claims from some residents that local communities have been abandoned by the national authorities in their hour of need. Well, John Hill is in Whitby. Good evening, John. Communities there have had some good news today, though, haven't they?
And that good news, Lara, is some rain, but frankly not enough. It looks a glorious evening, doesn't it, here in Whitby, but those dark clouds, the clouds rather just framing the ruins of Whitby Abbey, they are in part made up of the smoke that continues to billow from the fires which continue to burn and have done now for more than 2 weeks up on the moors fringing this town. And despite the heroic efforts of fire crews and volunteer farmers, there is a feeling among some here that perhaps the powers that be at national level are not giving this firefighting operation the priority it needs to keep these communities safe.
Same job, different setup.
On the front line in the war against the flames. Not the military, but one of dozens of volunteer farmers working day and night supporting firefighters in their quest to halt the spread of this wildfire. It's only from above that the true scale of the damage is clear. 25 square kilometres destroyed, caravan parks evacuated, main roads closed, some of our most popular coastal resorts under a pall of smoke. Smoke which is clearly visible from space. And as this fire burns for its third week, growing anger and desperation that this is a part of the world that has been abandoned by the national authorities.
In my opinion, we need national support now. We've got all our firefighters, the local farmers and community are fighting that. They're at the front of that fire as we speak, and they've been doing that for nearly 3 weeks. It's time we had national support now.
There is grassroots support. Will, one of those in Whitby, rallying round, donating drinks for those fighting the flames.
They're getting no help from anyone else, Ella. The firefighters are severely overworked. They're not getting any resources from government. They've got volunteers up there putting the fire out because the government don't seem interested in getting the army or anybody involved, and they're up there thirsty and hungry.
Today the call for assistance grew ever louder.
Well, I think the government can potentially do more, but it's subject to the request from the Chief Fire Officer. So if he requests, for example, the military to get involved, which is quite expensive, so it's important that government underwrites this, but potentially, yes, there is a military capability that could help.
But this afternoon, North Yorkshire's fire chief said at this stage he wasn't calling for military help, but has put a call out to fire brigades elsewhere in the country.
For North Yorkshire, this is and continues to be a major incident. We've requested 10 firefighting appliances. We haven't made a military request. That can only be done specifically through a very separate route.
For visitors to Whitby, there is sympathy for the locals and disbelief.
You can see, you're sort of on the horizon, you can see one end to the other, and the smoke just fills the whole horizon. So it must be a mad job just for the farmers to do. It's mad that there isn't any sort of army or anything, anyone dropping water on it.
I suppose it's a sign of having no rain, isn't it? Everything's so dry, but you don't really think of these things in Britain, I suppose, but how much it can impact a community. And quite scary, really, because if the wind changes, you don't know where it's going to come. So if you live here, you've got your livelihood here, you've got your house here.
There is a growing sense of desperation here, coupled with the utmost admiration for those fighting the fire. But as the moors on the edge of this town continue to burn, this is a prospect of Whitby that no one wants to see.
Well, smoke has come and gone here in the town. It was frankly dreadful this morning. Acrid pall hanging over the town. Now you can't smell it. The wind has slightly tweaked. But let me give you a couple of numbers. In a matter of hours, well-wishers within the town and the surrounding communities have raised around £8,000 to try and reimburse the farmers who are out of pocket with the fuel because they're digging fire trenches up on the moors. And here's another figure, 18, that's the number of exploded munitions and perhaps weapons or bombs that have gone off in the face of those farmers and fire crews from the Second World War as they've put themselves in harm's way to keep communities here safe. What's needed now is rain and lots of it.
John Hill live in Whitby for us. Thank you very much, and we will of course be talking to Kerry about what's in store with the weather later in the programme. OK, more of the day's news now, and two friends from West Yorkshire are seriously ill in separate hospitals in Ibiza after being run down by a taxi on the holiday island. Ebony Cordingley, a mother of three from Shipley, suffered several broken bones and a bleed on the brain. She was on holiday with Lauren Holmes, who has two children and lives in Bradford. She has broken bones and a punctured lung. Her mother and a close friend have flown out to Ibiza, and they're now trying to raise money to get both women home to their families.
She doesn't know what's happened. She doesn't know she ended up here.
Honestly, she didn't even know she were in an accident. She just woke up in hospital, confused. They've both gone out for some food. Next thing you know, they're in hospital. She's woke up and she didn't know nothing. She was worried about getting on with her kids, and obviously if Ebony's all right.
In other news tonight, a campaigner who was facing court action during Sheffield's tree felling saga says she feels vindicated after the council apologised for the way it treated her.
Isabel O'Leary says that she felt bullied into signing a legal document stopping her from protesting or facing High Court action and losing her home.
Well, more than a decade after the row erupted, the council acknowledged the harm done was significant and avoidable. But Isabel says there is still more to be done to ensure everyone has justice. Vicky Smith reports.
It's often remembered as a time when leafy suburban streets regularly became a battleground. Between 2016 and 2018, residents were seen being walked, dragged or carried away from protests.
And then there'd be loads of vehicles, loads of people in high vis.
For Isabel, it was a fight she felt compelled to be part of.
I was part of what was called, we just called it the flying squad, because if we heard of fellings anywhere in the city, about 10 of us, if we could, we'd drop everything and drive over to other parts of the city.
More than 5,000 trees were removed, and an inquiry published in 2023 found that Sheffield City Council's behaviour amounted to a serious failure of leadership and that the authority had at times been dishonest.
That's me standing texting people.
2 years after that inquiry and 8 years from the protest, Isabel has now received an apology. She says she felt bullied into signing a legal document called an undertaking.
The threat was that you'd be taken to the High Court with potentially ruinous damages against you. I could have lost my house. And to avoid being taken to court, I signed an undertaking to not do anything that would stop a tree being felled. So I wasn't allowed to stand under trees on the highway, but I also wasn't allowed to encourage other people to do anything to stop trees being felled.
And in this letter, the council has said we shouldn't have done that.
They have. They've said it was wrong, it was heavy-handed, and they shouldn't have done it.
But Isabel says that while she feels vindicated, others are still waiting for theirs.
There's people who've got suspended prison sentences from all of this, and they've had no exoneration. There's been this general apology, but nothing, and their employment might be affected because this is on their record.
Sheffield City Council says it remains committed to delivering apologies to those impacted by its actions in the long-running dispute. Isabel hopes it marks the start of rebuilding trust. Vicky Smith, ITV News, Sheffield.
You're watching Wednesday night's calendar. Still to come tonight. 2,000 Bantams fans go balmy as City stuff Stoke in the League Cup with an emphatic 3-0 win.
And this is Paul Truscott's favourite seat with a view in Chatsworth. Last week I was in West Yorkshire at Castle Hill. This week I'm much further south. For all the detail a little later on.
A mother whose son died alongside two teenagers in a car crash in North Yorkshire is calling for graduated driving licences to be introduced in the UK.
Nicola Bell-Percy from Massam is campaigning for tighter rules for young drivers, such as restrictions on having passengers, after her 18-year-old son Aaron died in a high-speed crash near Bedale.
Well, Nicola is one of several campaigning parents calling on the government to bring in the new licences in the upcoming road safety strategy. Nick Smith reports.
Since her son died in a road traffic accident in Bedale in North Yorkshire 3 years ago, Nicola Bell-Percy has been campaigning for tougher restrictions on young drivers. 18-year-old Aaron Bell was one of 3 teenage passengers who were killed when the car they were travelling in hit a tree at high speed.
Not being able to see him grow and what he would have done with his life is quite hard. I think the root cause of having met lots and lots of other families in the same position as I am, losing their sons and daughters in almost very similar situations. When you pass your test, you're inexperienced. You've got an awful lot to learn. A lot of 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds don't see the risk of getting in a car with their friends.
According to the RAC, a quarter of those killed or seriously injured on our roads annually are aged under 25. So they and many other safety campaigners are now asking for the government to seriously consider a graduated licensing scheme, meaning for an initial period of time, new drivers could face additional restrictions after passing their test, such as strict limits on the number of young passengers present in their vehicles, a curfew on driving late at night, and an even lower drink-drive limit for legal levels of alcohol. Graduated licences have existed in Australia for 2 decades. One academic who studied young driver habits says it has proved effective.
Graduated driver licensing systems are implemented in a whole range of countries worldwide, New Zealand, Australia, the US, and their effectiveness depends on the actual components within the graduated driver licensing system. But evaluations have shown that the introduction of this type of licensing system reduces crashes by about 20 to 40%.
There are concerns such restrictions could impact job and training prospects or even harm younger carers. We spoke to 16-year-olds who'll soon be old enough to enter the next cohort of learner drivers to hear what they think.
It makes sense in a way because it kind of they can ease into then they can get their full license, and it's also more responsible, and it'll just help because most accidents might be young drivers. They may not be, but I think that's what it is anyway.
I don't think it's fair. You work hard to get your driving license, so you should be able to have your friends in the car. I think it's fine if you're careful.
The Department for Transport told us there are no plans to implement graduated licences, but other measures are being considered for young drivers as part of an upcoming strategy on road safety. But for many who've lost a loved one behind the wheel, they'll see it as one of the most significant tools to reduce the risk for young people on our roads. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Sounds like a good idea, that, to me.
It certainly does. We'll let you know what happens with that, of course. The ITV Evening News is coming up later, but before that, let's have a look at the sport.
Powering local sport in the community. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Now, there was plenty of drama in the Carabao Cup last night, not least at Hillsborough.
Well, despite some rather empty stands due to fans boycotting the match, the Owls pulled off an almighty result against Premier League opponents Leeds. Emma Wilkinson has the roundup of all of last night's games.
In a show of their continued discontent with the club's owner, thousands of Wednesday supporters boycotted last night's game against Leeds. But they will have been more than content with the Owls' gutsy display on the pitch. Wednesday fielded a team with an average age of just 21, but what they lacked in experience they made up for in desire and went ahead in the 63rd minute. Leeds soon levelled things up though with what was their 21st attempt on goal. There were other chances to put the game to bed, but ultimately it came down to penalties, and Leeds missed all three from the spot, handing Wednesday a victory that was the epitome of togetherness.
From the trust point of view and the boycott point of view was a massive success and a massive success for the team. Thought the young lads played really well, brilliant. I mean, it's the first game I've missed for a long time, probably since late 1980s. That's how seriously we had to think about this.
Elsewhere, Bradford City continued their excellent start to the season with a convincing win over top of the Championship Stoke. With 2 goals for the Bantams in the first half, this George Lapsley tap-in put the game beyond the hosts. Up in Sunderland, this spectacular first-time volley from Leo Castledine put Huddersfield ahead in their tie. The Black Cats pulled one back in the 84th minute, but the game went to penalties. And this fine stop from Lee Nichols ensured Huddersfield's place in the next round. Rotherham, meanwhile, threatened to secure a first victory over Barnsley in 14 attempts when they went 1-0 up in the 19th minute. But the hosts' second-half fight-back was set in motion by an equaliser from John Russell and then completed 10 minutes later by Adam Phillips, sending the Tykes through to the third round for the second consecutive season. And it was a fairly comfortable passage through to the next round for Doncaster Rovers, with second-half goals from Owen Bailey and Ben Close securing the win for them over League Two's Accrington Stanley.
Yes, thanks to Emma Wilkinson there. Well, meanwhile, Sheffield United have signed former England striker Danny Ings. The 33-year-old was available on a free transfer after leaving West Ham this summer. He's agreed a 1-year contract with the Blades after impressing head coach Ruben Sellers in training.
Well, we mentioned earlier the need for that heavy rain, and we can talk to Kerry now about that. Have we got some coming our way?
Yeah, so let's go straight to it. Today, Thirsk, Eden, at the moment, some really heavy thundery showers, but they're showers. We need more rain and we need it more persistent and heavy. It's this little feature that's currently out into the Atlantic. By the time we reach the weekend, it now looks like it's coming towards us. So certainly for the first half of the weekend, expect some wet and windy conditions, but oh my goodness, do we need it?
Yeah, we certainly do, don't we? Now, look, you've been set a wonderful task to get out and about around our region to see some seats with a view.
I have. Like last week, we were in West Yorkshire at Castle Hill, and this week it's the actual structure that's the focal point for many living in the area. But from it, there's an amazing 360-degree viewing gallery. From looking out for miles to looking back at its vast history, I went to chat to husband and wife team Alan and Monica Lambert, who helped take care of the Moulton Windmill in Spalding.
It's unique. It's the heart of the village.
Absolutely incredible. It's a living machine.
Standing exactly 100 feet high, the Grade 1 listed Moulton Windmill is Britain's tallest. A remnant of the age of wind power, and in recent years restored to its former glory by a dedicated group of volunteers who continue to operate and maintain this giant structure.
It's a beautiful building built in 1822 by a man called Robert King. So why did he build it so big? Well, he felt that if he went much taller, he'd get a more consistent wind and be more productive. And so he was, until a huge storm in 1894, sails came crashing down, gallery was damaged, and they were never put back. So the mill stood as a brick tower with no sails and no gallery for over 100 years.
But in June 2008, The external gallery was lovingly restored to this 9-storied mill, allowing visitors, including myself, to enjoy the panoramic views.
Alan, this is an absolutely beautiful view. We can see for miles pretty much, can't we?
It's quite a view from here. Yeah, you can see Boston Stump in Boston. It's, I think it's the tallest parish church in England. It's more like a cathedral. And so on a clear day, we could see it. And that's between about 12 to 15 miles as the crow flies.
So when it comes to restoration, how much work was involved?
Lots and lots, by lots of different people. And phase 1 was sort of a new cap. Phase 2, gallery. The final phase was the sails, and that was the difficult part.
Everybody got involved, didn't they, even the men?
Mostly the men. My wife didn't think so many men could sew because they were, shutters and sails, and took us a lot longer than we anticipated. Eventually, November 2011, the sails went on. Very emotional day. John Biggerdike, the last miller, was here to witness it. Lots of tears shed that day.
I suppose I was carried in the door when I was a baby. And I've been coming ever since.
And the fondness the last miller had for the windmill was captured in this Yorkshire television documentary from 1994.
It was built extremely high, and my grandfather, who had the windmill in the next village, said that this one could often work when he was becalmed and his sails wouldn't turn.
It's great because we've brought it back to life. It's back to what it should be. It's a living building.
So 20 years ago, when you saw the windmill without any sails, did you ever really think you'd get to this point?
No, I don't think we did really. And even the miller, the last miller, he never imagined that it would be a working windmill again. So I think we can all be proud of what we've achieved.
We started milling flour in April 2013, so that's the first time in over 100 years that flour had actually been milled here. It's brought it back to probably the life that it was. It's living history, and not just for our generation, but future generations perhaps to learn from. And particularly when you think, no tools, no power tools, no cranes. And look at it, magnificent building.
Wow, what a view.
It's wonderful.
Amazing views. And Alan and Monica are so dedicated. They actually need more volunteers, actually, because it's such hard work. If you dedicate your entire retirement to something so passionate like that, it's just amazing. So
it's a full-time job, isn't it?
Honestly, it is a full-time job. Super busy, but yeah, very grateful for you letting me spend some time with you. Thank you. And thanks for all your suggestions as well of your seat with a view. I thought I'd show you one. Machiko sent this one. Her favourite seat with a view is Wath Road in Pateley Bridge. So she took a little video. She says she goes with her husband. She used to go with her in-laws. Now they've passed and they go back to the spot where they can just take in the views, take in the scenery, and just have a little thoughtful moment on that beautiful seat you can just see here appearing there. Weather photos at ITV.com, so keep them coming.
You can see why they go there, can't you? It's beautiful.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, so we've got, well, we're heading towards the weekend, I suppose. We're midweek, aren't we? Of course, we're not as warm as Monday, where we just got short of 29 degrees, but just a reminder that the average is actually 20 for late August. So even though we dip temperatures during the course of this week, even by Friday and into the weekend, it's still just about average for the time of the year. Here's your forecast.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yes, many of us, at least for a time, getting some heavy showery outbreaks of rain, even a rumble or two of thunder. It started well though this morning, plenty of blue sky and sunshine, just some patchy cloud, and we have benefited from some blue skies as well as the rain today. It has been more of a mix. This was the weather front working its way in from the west and pushing north and eastwards, but again behind it plenty of drier and clearer weather as we head deeper into this evening and overnight tonight. So yes, still a few sharp showers potentially to eastern fringes, but largely dry and clear overnight, and with slightly lighter winds it will allow for the temperatures to take a bit of a tumble. So in single figures, certainly away from towns and cities as we head towards dawn. Not a bad start though across most parts of the region tomorrow morning. 6:07 and 8:07 are your sun times. We're expecting cloud to thicken from the west later on, and then a rash of showers mixed in with sunny spells developing throughout the day after a decent start. So not too bad in the sunshine in shelter. Still around average at 20 or 21 Celsius for most of us, but some of those showers could be on the sharp and potentially heavy side once more and linger into the first part of the evening. The low pressure system is still to the north of the UK, feeding in another rash of showers for Friday. Blustery conditions where we get any heavier downpours, and temperatures average once more at 20 or 21 Celsius. And then as we head into the weekend, a low pressure system likely to develop from the southwest could give us cloudy skies, outbreaks of rain and stronger winds through the weekend, but we are still just about average for the time of year all the way through to the start of next week.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go. I think I said average for the time of year about 4 times there, so it's just average for the time of the year.
That's being normal again now.
Yeah.
We get the message. We get the
We do.
message. That's it from us. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow night at 6. From us all, good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.